Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, as you guys know, from my upload schedule in recent weeks, I've not really been too motivated to cover boxing. To tell the truth, it's not only, motivation, it's also time constraints. I am very busy right now, things of that nature. So yeah, covering boxing has been on the back burner, I can't lie. But I've seen some news on Twitter that has me fairly excited, to be honest. And that is news that Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. has now been agreed, and they are targeting November 19th in Las Vegas. According to reports on ESPN, both fighters, both camps have agreed to all material terms, including a two-way rematch clause. So no matter who wins, it looks like there would be a rematch. Obviously, that would depend on how the first fight went down. If somebody gets blown out in a round, a rematch won't really make sense. But yeah, I mean, to me at least, this is very exciting news. It's positive news in regards to this saga. This fight has been talked about for what now, 5 years maybe? At least 4 or 5 years. And yeah, when it comes to hardcore boxing fans, this fight has been on the tip of everybody's tongue. We've wanted to see this for quite some time. And honestly, now it just makes sense. Every single belt has been tied up between two men. Errol Spence Jr. has 3 titles, whereas Terence Crawford has 1. You put these two guys together and you have an undisputed clash. So this fight right now makes perfect sense. I think it's as big as it's ever been. I know people were calling for this fight 2 or 3 years ago, but I think right now it's grown into an even bigger fight, and should this fight get signed, I do think this fight will do relatively well on pay-per-view. I'm not talking like 1 million pay-per-view buys or anything like that, but I think it will get close to 500,000, maybe just over. And considering both guys' fan base, I think that would be a respectable number. But yeah, let's be real. At this point in time, this fight needs to happen. Both Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. right now, they are running the risk that if they wait any longer, this fight won't be available any longer. You have Virgil Ortiz Jr. on the come-up. You have Jaron Ennis on the come-up. And ultimately, these guys want their shots real soon, and both guys are super dangerous. So the longer they wait, the more chances there is of somebody maybe losing or, something of that nature. So it's best to get this fight done now and signed, and let's have this fight end of this year. November sounds perfect. Las Vegas, both guys unbeaten, both guys champions. This is a tremendous fight. Stylistically, I think this one gels really well. Terence Crawford is an ambidextrous puncher, very rangy, very wiry, good boxer, good finishing instinct, etc. Quite versatile in his own right. Whereas Errol Spence Jr., an aggressive southpaw, great body puncher, maintains good composure in the ring, good balance, things of that nature, good punch output, high work rate, with good aggression. Put these two guys together, I think this fight is going to be very, very interesting, very entertaining. Again, to me, this fight really, it's hard to really pin down what exactly Terence Crawford's style is. He can play the counter-puncher, he can be the pure boxer, he can be the boxer-puncher, but primarily, I've always kind of viewed Terence Crawford as a boxer-puncher. I think that is where he's best, whereas Errol Spence Jr. is a technically sound pressure fighter with a very good jab, as we know, great body puncher, etc. Stylistically, I think this fight should gel extremely well, and I think it's going to be very entertaining. Now, I have a bias going into this fight. I much prefer Errol Spence Jr. I prefer his style. I enjoy his fights a lot more. And yeah, I just prefer watching Errol Spence Jr., to be honest with you. So yeah, going into this fight, providing it gets signed, I will be supporting Errol Spence Jr. I'll be rooting for him in this fight. Not to say I don't like Terence Crawford or I don't rate him. I think he's a very good fighter. I just prefer Errol Spence Jr. and his approach. So fingers crossed this fight gets signed. As of right now, honestly, I can't really see any other route either guy has to take. I mean, like I was saying earlier, Jaron Ennis now, I believe he might be IBF Mando, potentially. Virgil Ortiz is highly ranked in the WBC, WBO. These young guys now are getting very, very close, and these guys are dangerous, dangerous fighters. So it's now or never for me in regards to Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. It's got to happen now. And yeah, fingers crossed this fight gets signed. Finally, we have some positive news. Apparently both parties have agreed all terms, or all material terms, whatever that means. And, you know, this is being reported by ESPN, so credible sources, you would say. Let's hope we finally have this fight. In my opinion, this is certainly one of the most intriguing fights in boxing. It's one of the best fights in boxing right now. It's not the biggest fight, you know, there's some bigger fights out there, but in terms of intrigue, to me this fight ranks right up there. I will be delighted if we get this fight this year, you know. And yeah, November's only 3 months away, so fingers crossed this fight gets signed. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.